Doctor Who Space Babies review. A good start, I think. I've seen people absolutely slate this episode for no characterisation and a stupid story, and while I disagree, I can see where they're coming from. Whilst I very much enjoyed myself and am enjoying the direction of the series of Doctor Who, it feels like the script could have done with one more revision. It feels far too fast paced with all but one beautiful moment not really being allowed to breathe. I feel like this might be a symptom of making series 14 and 15 back to back in such a short amount of time. I'm not calling it series 1, especially when it's so heavily linked to the revival. I'm pretty sure both series have already been shot and I can't help feel as if it's hurt the show in the long run. This episode was fine though, which is good for a regeneration story. Not everyone needs to be the 11th hour, it just needs to be solid. It got me excited after the mixed bag of 60th specials and I'd give it a 6 out of 10. And that was my Doctor Who The Devil's Cord review. I can't lie, I could have done without such a long twist at the end. Apart from that, I had a great time. It suffers from a lot of the same issues that Space Babies does with the pacing and structure, but less so, and that scene where Ruby plays the piano is gorgeous and is broken up at just the right time. Definitely my favourite stretch of the Russell T Davies 2 era. It's also nice to see the show embrace its wackier side a bit more. Maestro is a great villain and is played excellently by Jinx Monsoon. Their very campy performance feels perfectly Doctor Who and is also quite threatening. I also like the scene everyone's clowning on with the Doctor showing Ruby what happens if they don't stop Maestro. I don't find it a copy of Martha at all, probably because this scene is better, because we actually see what they cause and the companion breaks down in tears knowing that their safety is gone. Although, it was incredibly weird to have a 6-month jump for the characters. Overall, this was a good 7 out of 10 episode, and Tommy Robinson and his ilk can suck my fucking dick for inevitably getting mad at my boom review. This is a fantastic episode of Doctor Who. Stephen Moffat has a way of doing one-off episodes that I don't think anyone has ever been able to match. The Empty Child, Blink, Silence in the Library and The Doctor Falls are some of my favourite episodes of television ever. And whilst I don't think that this is quite at that level, it's still a fantastic bottle episode. The advantage of reviewing it after the whole season is out is that this episode now feels very important to the character of the 15th Doctor, and every actor knocks it out of the park, and I adored that the Doctor ended a war without violence. It truly felt like the Doctor. Plus, I really enjoyed this episode's critique of the military-industrial complex. 9 out of 10, fantastic episode. 73 Yards review. What on earth was going on here? This is an episode where the longer term effects are actually cut from the episode and still used in the finale for some reason. There are some clever moments, such as Ruby using the woman to her advantage to save the world, but overall I was just confused. It's not like we've got any answers for it yet, which is fine, but after the finale I don't trust that we will get any answers for it. I feel like this is the main problem with this series. It doesn't feel like it has one coherent vision, but back to the episode. It's an episode of Doctor Who that exists and aired at the stupid time of 12 AM on a Saturday to placate Disney. 5 out of 10. Dot and Bubble. While this was a needlessly controversial episode, a great look into how racism is utterly and completely detrimental to a society, this is the 3rd best episode of the series. Filmed on my old uni campus, this episode looks great, but you still feel the sinister undertones, which makes sense as it was filmed in Swansea. The ending has generated a lot of buzz and ties the episode together completely and in a very satisfyingly unsatisfying way. Racism really does make you stupid, and ethno-states will always crumble and die due to their own stupidity. Some people just don't want to leave the bubble even if it kills them, and that was displayed perfectly here. 8 out of 10. Rogue review. This is a good episode that could have thrived with a longer runtime in a different season. Whilst I enjoyed it, it felt just a little bit rushed to the point where certain parts felt unnaturally fast. I think it was a bit weird that Rogue was both willing and able to save Ruby, and that apparently the Doctor has no idea where he is, even though they would surely have to have an idea considering there were certain parameters that they agreed to before they sent the Childers there in the first place. But that's just a nitpick of an otherwise effective goodbye. This episode also felt a bit goofy, but instead of like a Doctor Who way, in a Sarah Jane's Adventures type of way, but I liked it. 6 out of 10. The Legend of Ruby Sunday. Even though it isn't an anagram, this is probably the best ending to a part 1 of a finale in Doctor Who since World Enough and Time's Cyberbill reveal. It's built up to perfectly with Harriet Arbinger, Ruby in the Time Window and Susan Triad talking about all of her dreams. Outside of that, again, the setup feels rushed and the opening truly comes out of nowhere. I'm actually fairly invested in who Ruby's mother is. And and I feel like the time window is an intriguing way to introduce us to the cloud version of Sutek. Otherwise though, I thought this episode was fine, if a tad boring in certain aspects, but solid 8 out of 10 episode. Empire of Death review. I have not hated a Doctor Who finale like this since the last one. It's actually insane how cheated this finale makes you feel for being invested in the mystery of Ruby's mother. I like the idea of her being just ordinary, but why was she wearing an Assassin's Creed hood? Why were we not able to see her face? Why was her identity not revealed in 73 yards? Why was Ruby able to make it snow? Why was the signpost not there in previous episodes? Why did the ambulance not flag her as the next of kin? The answer is, fuck you. This is content now, not a TV show mystery. Outside of that, the episode still sucks. Sutek's destruction feels really, really impersonal, and the way they defeat him is ludicrous. I actually feel personally insulted. It was that garbage. 3 out of 10. A terrible end. Good season though. The Robot Revolution review. A lot of people were talking about how, before the Interstellar Song Contest, Doctor Who Season 2 was the first season in a long time with 5 great opening episodes. I'm not one of them, and it's because of this story. Personally, I think it should have been a Cyberman story for a number of different reasons that I won't get into here, but I have so many different problems with the episode as well. It's too fast paced, so most of the emotional beats don't hit, the Doctor in the hospital and the resolution is so ridiculously out of character for him, and there are so many minor issues that could reasonably be called nitpicks that drag the episode down for me. But there are positives such as the friction between Belinda and the Doctor and really the whole end scene in general. However, the overall impression this episode gave me was not a positive one, settling at around a 4 out of 10. And that was my short Lux review. Doctor Who in the cinema, this is BBC heritage. This is arguably the best story that has involved the Pantheon in both concept and execution. Lux is a really threatening villain who does interesting things with their powers, and all that despite being only 2 foot tall. It really shows that a Doctor Who threat doesn't have to be a 20 foot tall CGI monster to feel threatening. Foreshadowing is a literary. The setting added a great way for the Doctor to show Belinda the darker side of humanity's recent past before she sees the good, and I thought that the TV show bit was quite cool. I will say though, I get they were going for a cartoon vibe at points, but sometimes it felt a little goofy and distracting. But overall, this was a great episode that displays how hit and miss RTD2 has been so far, as we went straight from a 4 to a 9 out of 10. And that was my short. The Well review. We have never been so back in Doctor Who, after it really looking like it was so over. Whilst I'm annoyed that nobody said that there's something on your back, this was great regardless. It doesn't touch the original, but it's still a great episode of television with a great twist reveal. It's also really rare that we see the Doctor just outright lose, and even more so that it's done this well, so bravo. Honestly, the biggest complaint that I have with this episode is the script security, because I got the twist spoiled so much that I thought that we were supposed to know. However, I will concede that's not a problem if you say off X, the racism app, before the episode airs. Overall, this is a great episode that I wouldn't want to spoil, so I give it a 9 out of 10, and that is my short Docky Who Lucky Day review. I was not expecting Millie Gibson's best performance to be a Dr. Light episode, to be honest, especially after the plodding, uninteresting mess that was 73 yards. But fair play, I really like this episode. I understand that people read this episode's message as never question authority because they're great, but I disagree. I saw it as a take on grifters that do not believe in their message stoking division to get what they want. UNIT was just an easy narrative device that was already there. Hopefully that gets expanded on in War Between the Land and Sea, but given this season and how it ended, I very much doubt that that's going to happen. Back to the episode, and I have to give props to Conrad's character. Everything about him, from the acting to the writing, is superbly done, and he's easily the best new RTD2 character. It's not a high bar, but there is enough space to do limbo, I guess. Overall, an interesting episode with characters that feel real, and a satisfying Dr. Light episode. Season 15 is currently 3 out of 4. And that was my short Doctor Who, the story and the engine review. I can't lie, I thought this episode was a little too fast-paced for my liking. Not so much the middle or the beginning, but this episode definitely could have done with 15 or so minutes to more really flesh out the ending. Having said that, considering that this is essentially a Doctor Who episode of just people talking in one space, this is quite entertaining. It's also probably the best look at who this new Doctor is, as we haven't really had time to see his range, but we do here. I also really like the cameo here, even if it raises a whole lot more questions than it answers. As alluded to earlier though, the redemption is so quick and kind of comes from nowhere, and it's weird to see everybody praising one of their kidnappers. But overall, it's a solid episode that continues the streak of the last 4 episodes all being good and taking the series to 4 out of 5 so far. And that was my short Doctor Who The Interstellar Song Contest review. This is such a disappointment of an episode because it starts so well. The Doctor feels it is most Doctor-ish after the roof is opened, and that whole sequence looks hauntingly beautiful. It also establishes a real threat very quickly and is extremely dark for Doctor Who. Belinda also probably gets her best character moments here as we see her scared, capable, yet wanting to do the right thing. And then we get to the end of the episode and oh whoops, I dropped it and now it's broken. The politics of the ending are insanely liberal coded, and that isn't a good thing. Further proof of my view that the Doctor is best when he's written as a flawed communist. It's very clear that this episode is at least partially commenting on Israel's abhorrent treatment of Palestinians in both the West Bank and Gaza. It doesn't do it well at all, and that's all I'll say about that. The Doctor and Belinda's relationship takes a jarring turn into one of complete trust, seemingly over nothing. And the way it happens in this episode, it feels like Belinda was won over by the Doctor torturing a victim of genocide. It's all muddled, antithetical to the core beliefs of the Doctor throughout his history, and overall just confusing. And that's not even talking about the Ronnie's CBBC-esque return or the magical reviving of everybody that had been killed. Overall, this is a massive misstep in an overall solid block of episodes. This review's gonna piss a few people off, but I suppose that's part and parcel for making a Wish World review. I can't lie, I thought this was an interesting episode, but I know what that means in an RTD2 season. That is unfortunately not a good thing. But back to this episode, I thought that it had a lot of decent moments and intrigue. Also, despite coming from the worst ever addition to Doctor Who by regeneration. The 2 Rani's actresses are both great, but especially Archie Punjabi. She has such a commanding presence every time she's on screen and great chemistry with Anita Dobson. Conrad's return is actually quite cool to see, and there's such a good use of everything in the season connecting and converging here. It makes the setup of everything a lot easier to stomach. It also helps that all the sets and the creature designs look great too. Overall, I have to say that it's a solid episode all round that just needs its other half to stick the landing. We need a satisfying answer to who Poppy is, why the Rani needs Omega, and how is the Doctor going to stop them? And that was my The Reality War review. I've not hated a Doctor Who finale like this since the last one. It's actually insane how cheated this finale makes you feel for being invested in the mysteries of the season. None of them get satisfying answers, and I don't even like the ideas behind the ones that we do get answers for. Why was Poppy in Space Babies? What caused bioregeneration? What the fuck is up with Susan? Is she alive? If she is, why hasn't Ncuti recruited her? Is it because she's not a child? Why was the Doctor such a dick to Ruby in the TARDIS? The answers are fuck you, and fuck you, and also fuck you! The show is content now, not a TV show. Outside of that, the episode stinks. The Rani is wasted, Omega's defeat is really silly, and the fact that they changed the Sonic because it looked like a gun, only then to give the Doctor a Vindicator that's been modified to look like a gun to shoot Omega in the face. I would say it's comical, but I certainly wasn't laughing or even having a good time. Like, I actually feel personally insulted, and that goes double for the atrocious regeneration that I'm not even gonna fucking talk about. It's so bad, I'm not bothered if the show goes on hiatus again. 1 out of 10. Unbelievably abysmal garbage. And that was my